Everybody ready? Here we go. Can you see the hose? I don't know. Can you see the hose? Okay. Here's our hose. In a pile. It's very light. This is supposed to be 75 feet. It's filling up. Oh, look. Oh, it is growing. Give it a little more oomph. It's not leaking here. It is definitely getting bigger. Oh, this is kind of funky, actually. This is really weird. Can you see this? Look at this hose. All right, well, let's see. Did I just spray? Wow, that was close. I almost sprayed you. All right. It is light to drag around. Absolutely. Oh, this is lovely. You know, I almost don't care if this only worked once. Oh, nothing makes you feel like a proper gardener than having nice watering tools. The vision was simple. 3 recipes, 6 planters, 2 of each design. Recipe A was the palm showstopper, a big tropical palm in the middle surrounded by coleus, begonias, lobelia, alyssum, and sweet potato vine. Recipe B was the canna drama pot. Same basic idea, but with a canna lily as the thriller. Big color, big leaves, big drama. Recipe C was the overflow color pot. No giant centerpiece, just coleus, begonias, lobelia, alyssum, and sweet potato vines spilling over the edge. 13 plants per pot. Everything planned, everything written down, everything sensible. All we had to do was take those recipe cards to the greenhouse and buy the plants. What could possibly go wrong? Recipe cards in hand, we headed to the greenhouse. Me, Dad, and Harley. Now, Harley loves the greenhouse. He has a special bed that Phil puts in a shopping cart, and he and Phil follow me around the plants while Harley gets pets and smiles and oh, what a good boy everywhere we go. I also had a cart, but mine was for plants. Less glamorous, but still important. This year was a little different because it was snowing when we went to the greenhouse. Snowing. And cold. Because apparently, this is how Regina does spring gardening. Everything was tucked under tarps, so finding the plants on the recipe cards turned into a bit of a treasure hunt. But we found most of what we wanted on the first run. Certainly by the second run. And by the third run, we were really close. Yes, there were multiple runs, with multiple carts. At one point, we were manhandling 4 carts through the greenhouse like a tiny circus train. But honestly, we're pros at this. Plants were arranged into Bertie the Jeep for multiple trips back and forth to get them all home. Harley sat in the back as the plants were packed around him, absolutely in his glory. You could almost hear him singing, if I were king of the forest. But again, it was snowing, so the plants could not go straight outside. Into the garage they went, where they spent the next 6 days in a cold, dark plant jail while we waited for warmer days. Oofta. True to spring on the prairies, we went from -3 and snowing to +22 basically overnight. Brilliant. Saturday Planter Fest began. First up, Recipe A, the Palm Showstopper. We found Majesty palms, and they were on sale, so that's a beautiful little greenhouse victory. 2 Chartreuse Coleus, check. 2 Burgundy or Red Coleus, check. Blue Lobelia, check. Sweet Potato Vine, check. Begonias? Well, that's where the first mistake happened. Peeking under tarps at the greenhouse, Phil spotted a pot labeled begonia. Finally, I scooted over like Mario Andretti with my cart and verified that yes, we had begonias. There were red and pink ones, which fit the plan perfectly. So I grabbed a tray. Then I had a second thought and grabbed a second tray, because honestly, can you ever have too many begonias? Apparently, yes. Or, at least you can have too many things that are not actually begonias. What I did not realize until planting day was that those trays were not all begonias. More than half of them were impatiens, which, to be very clear, are lovely. They were just not invited to this particular party. And then there was the alyssum. The white alyssum was nowhere. Not one greenhouse, not one tray, not one sad little 6-pack tucked in a corner. Greenhouse people were talking about it like it was the biggest issue to hit planting since the invention of the hoe. Apparently some critter, bug, fungus, curse, or act of garden nonsense had wiped out the alyssum supply across Western Canada. Possibly a bit of hyperbole. But the result was the same, no alyssum. There was, however, white lobelia. So sure, easy substitute. White, small, trailing, pretty. Close enough for Wonky Cottage work. Now here is a bonus that actually did work. While we were waiting for the latest Saskatchewan Ice Age to pass, I fell down a little DIY rabbit hole watching people do magical things with dollar store supplies, which frankly is right up my alley. I found a video from a woman, and I dearly wish I could find her again because I would love to give her a proper shout out. She took a pool noodle, a broomstick, and a solar light from the dollar store, whacked them all together, and made a really striking planter feature. So of course, I decided to try it too. And honestly, I love it. This is my version of Planter 1, the Palm Showstopper, gracing the front step like royalty. Not exactly what was on the recipe card, but maybe much better. Next up was Recipe B, the Canadrama pot. And instantly, I ran into issues. You know what else did not exist? Canna lilies, of any kind. Aside from 6 tiny little 2-inch plants we found at the third greenhouse. And I'm sorry, but a 2-inch plant is not a thriller. It's more of a suggestion. So knowing I already had all the fillers and spillers, and still believing they were the correct fillers and spillers, I made a quick executive decision and substituted a calla lily instead. Was that smart? No idea. Would it handle direct sun? Unknown. Would it like living in a pot? Unclear. And would it enjoy its new neighbors? Also unknown. But by this point, we were up to 7 carts of plants, had spent all day ferrying things back and forth, and Dad and I were both done. Even Harley was starting to look suspicious. At some point, you just have to throw caution to the wind, buy the calla lily, and go home. Fast forward to Saturday, and voila, Planter 2 was born. Twice, because we do enjoy a matching set. The calla lily substitution is visually gorgeous. Botanically speaking, it's a bit of a gamble. It can handle some sun. What it may not appreciate is being placed on a prairie front step in a container during the annual Saskatchewan Temperature Whiplash Festival. So now we watch. It may thrive, it may sulk, it may even file a formal complaint. But for now, it looks beautiful. And then we got to recipe C, the overflow color pot. On paper, this one should have been easy. No giant thriller, no dramatic centerpiece, just using up the overflow. Except I seemed to have a lot more overflow than I had pots. By this point, the original recipe was more of a suggestion than a rule, especially given our earlier plant type issues. So we planted it up with the general spirit of the recipe in mind and hoped for the best. And this is what we ended up with. Is it exactly what was on the card? No. Is it planted, colorful, and doing its best? Yes. And at Wonky Cottage, that counts for a lot. But oh, there was absolutely a Planter 4, and a Planter 5, and still trays of plants to go. By this point, though, I at least had a game plan. I'd started to figure out what was going into a planter, what would work better in a bed, and what needed to just stop looking at me accusingly from a tray in the driveway. So Planter 4, which was actually Planters 7 and 8 because every design in this operation came in pairs, got planted next. And by now, hours had passed. The sun was beating down. I was running on determination and potting soil. Harley had officially abandoned his supervisory role and gone back inside to sit in the air conditioning with Dad, which frankly was probably the smarter choice. Was Planter 4 part of the original 6-pot master plan? Absolutely not. But by this point, we had the plants, we had the pots, and we'd come too far to stop now. Right. So by this point, we were down to a tray of marigolds, a tray of begonias / impatiens, a tray of white and blue lobelia, and a few potato vine. And a mandevilla that somehow jumped into the cart at the greenhouse. Dad made me a spot for a climbing plant several years ago, and over the years, it has hosted a bit of everything. Sometimes squash, sometimes morning glories, whatever seemed like a good idea at the time. So this year, mandevilla. And since we still had some extra blue lobelia, I stuck that in the front because honestly, why not? We had it, so we're going to use it. This may not have been on the original recipe cards, but it ended up being one of the easiest decisions of the day. The mandevilla had a place to climb, the lobelia had somewhere to go. And suddenly, a random greenhouse impulse plant looked like it had been part of the plan all along. Gardening is funny like that. Sometimes the plant that jumps into the cart is the one that knows exactly where it belongs. So what happened to the leftovers? Everything went into the coffee bed. Or at least everything was going to go in the coffee bed. That's today's problem and episode 3's story. But at the end of Planterfest, the leftovers were very clearly headed there. Right now, the coffee bed looks like a bomb went off in it because it is very much mid-project. But that's fine. The whole garden is mid-project. The plan is simple. Lobelia along the front so it can trail over the wall. Everything else goes in the middle. Marigolds, begonias, impatiens, extra bits and pieces. If it has roots and looks vaguely willing to participate, into the bed it's gonna go. Basically, it's becoming a colorful mosh pit at a bluegrass concert. This was not the original plan for the coffee bed, but it's exactly the kind of thing that happens when you garden in real life. You use what you have, you adapt, you make the next best decision. And sometimes the leftovers become their own project.